as you can see, we're talking about dating, relationships, singleness, all the things. And so, I enjoy a good, dad joke, but I guess, because I'm a girl, it'd be like a mom joke. But thank you to Olivia for these. But, for those of you that just single or dating or whatever, here, you can tell mom and dad you got kissed tonight at youth group. Where's our drummer? Then clarify it. No, mom, no, dad. It was a Hershey kiss, okay? Hershey kiss. Because we don't do that here at church, right? And never. Anyway, so the fellas that are going to help bring furniture up now would be a great time. So tonight we're going to talk about dating and relationships and singleness. And so I just wanted to say a couple things. We are going to bring a panel up. And so what this is tonight we're going to bring a couple people up. It's going to be myself facilitating, and then we have some leaders and we have some students. Your generation, Gen Z, you guys, we've said it before, this is why we do small groups. You guys learn from your peers. It's important for you to be able to have discussions and learn from the people who are near you, with you, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes seeing a talking head up here, it's just doesn't always do the trick. So, but also your generation, only 3% of Gen Z have a biblical worldview. So the view in which you view the world, it's only 3% of Gen Zers actually view it through a biblical worldview. And so, we're talking tonight about dating and relationships and kind of what the foundation of that should be, the purpose of dating, why we date. And, as I was preparing for this, Pastor Hayden and I were kind of talking, and it's one of those that, I was telling him, I was like, I feel really uncomfortable even talking about this. And he was like, well, why? And I told him, I was like, well, I feel like I know the things that I'm going to teach because it's those were taught to me at a young age, and those were things that it was just how you dated. And the odd conflicting thing for me is I feel like I'm going to talk about that, and it's familiar for me, but when I was preparing it and stuff like that, I was looking at it through your guys' eyes, and the kind of weird but scary thing is I'm like, the stuff we're going to talk about tonight, some of you guys might look at it and be like, why on earth would I do that? Almost that the concepts we're going to talk about tonight and just how to date in a godly manner, because let's be real, it's going to happen. We're all going to date. And so go ahead, lower your guard. I'm not going to sit up here and be like, you shouldn't date. Dating's horrible, all of that kind of stuff. God intended, obviously, hey, there we go. Give it up for the guys. Give it up for the guys. Doing a great job. Breaking chairs, it's awesome. But so tonight we're gonna talk about a lot of it. When it comes to, all right, sorry, I know they're distracting, but let's try to keep it here. You and me and you, we got this. Our friends that we're gonna be bringing up, they in no way are any of us dating and relationship gurus. Okay, so hear me again. None of us that are gonna be on this stage are dating and relationship gurus. We're gonna have viewpoints from married folk like myself. We're gonna have viewpoints from people who are single, and we're going to have viewpoints from people who may have dated, are dating, stuff like that. So anyway, this isn't an advice columnist. It's not an advice panel. It is, what we're doing is basically bringing you into almost a small group setting. Up here behind me, we're going to do a small group setting and kind of just talk about what does dating look like. So before we bring everybody up here and before we get into it, what would you guys say if you had a thought? What would you say that dating is for? For marriage. What else? What? You guys were going to say something. Someone said fun. Dating's for fun. You're going to have to shout. Reproducing. Hey, I mean, let's be real. He's read his Bible. The Bible says be fruitful and multiply. However, the context of that would be within marriage. So ultimately, all right, we'll bring it back in. So ultimately, the purpose of dating is to find your spouse. That is the ultimate purpose of dating. That's why we do it. Unfortunately, the Bible doesn't have there's books of the Bible, but none of them is solely if you want to know how to date properly, if you want to know what the Word says about dating, here you go. Read this book of the Bible. Doesn't really have that. But we all are led by the Spirit of God. The Bible does have some things to say in regards to dating, the conditions of our hearts, stuff like that. So we're going to kind of talk about that today and tonight. But something that the Big Eagle, Pastor Andrew, said is he said, purposeless dating, let me make sure we get it right because it's a good one. He says, purposeless dating is just practicing divorce. And so, yeah, I'm going to say that again because Pastor Andrew, he's a wise man. So Pastor Andrew said this about dating because he knew we were doing this series or this message. He said, purposeless dating is just practicing divorce. Ultimately, the goal for us when we date, because let's be real, it's going to happen. So I'm not going to sit here and say, like, don't date. Although, let's be real. We're all, like, okay, I say we're young because in my mind, forever young. I want to be forever young. Anyway, and you all are like, you are not young. Shut your mouth. But, so you guys are young. You have your whole lives ahead of you. Your front lobes aren't even developed, which, like, meaning that your brain, not fully developed yet. Mine, guys, for perspective, I'm 28 years old, almost 29. Mine just fully developed, like, I think 3 or 4 years ago. So, awesome. I know, thank you. Officially adult status now. My brain's fully developed. It's great. So anyway, you know, obviously, like, when we're dating, I get it. We get all the butterfly feelings. We're like, oh, he's cute. And the guys are like, all right, she's cute. And so, you know, it happens. It's chemistry, whatever. But ultimately, dating is a great way for, like, it is what we should do to find our spouse. That's the purpose of dating. That's the whole goal of dating. However, what dating is not is test driving the car to make sure you like it before you buy it. That's not the purpose of dating. But we're going to talk about tonight with our friends, we're going to talk about what are some things that we can do in advance and during dating to help set us up the best for success. Because I don't know about any of you guys, but I grew up with some of these standards, and I still didn't date very well. And as a married woman, I've now seen some of the consequences of my sin in dating and not doing it well. I've seen those in, like, past relationships with, like, the guy I dated in high school things. I've seen the sin from that season of my life. I've seen it even affect my marriage now. And so, so dating's it's important, and I feel like there's a really heavy weight. We want to keep tonight fun because as a young person, sometimes there's nothing worse than sitting in a room listening to an older person be like, dating, you know, and talking about it because it's like, you guys have this mindset that, you know, I'm older now and I'm married and I have kids and I didn't go through the things you guys went through. Well, let me tell you, I did. And, but anyway, with that, like, we want to have a good time and talk, but the importance of dating, and this is why we want to talk about it, is that, man, the person that you marry can drastically alter your calling and destiny. The person that you marry is important, and that's why, like, God uses the union of marriage, not only, like our friend was talking about, to be fruitful and multiply, but he uses the union of marriage to describe and to give the example of what and how Christ loves the church. And, like, so that model of, like, Christ and his love for the church is also what marriage represents. Like, so, you know, like a husband honoring and loving his wife and a wife honoring and loving her husband and serving one another selflessly and stuff like that. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring up our panel here. So, come on up. Give them a hand. Come on up, guys. Yeah! I think we might have one extra chair, but... Do we have an extra chair? I'm going to pop right here.
I guess I'll go over here. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
All right.
It'd be awkward on the edge.
I know. All right, so we're real quick going to go around and introduce ourselves. We might be mic passing, so we'll start over at that end. Go ahead and just introduce yourself.
My name is Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
My name is Zachary.
Hi, Zachary.
I'm Jody.
I don't know. Is it on? Some of us are, you know, newbies with the mic.
I'm Jody.
Here we go. Hey, Jody.
I'm Colin.
I'm Mark. I'm taken by Jesus.
I don't know if mine's on. Oh, it is. I'm Madeline.
Whoa.
Mine's hot.
Clearly, the voice of the Lord is on her.
My mic is hot. Wow.
So clearly now y'all know who to listen to tonight. Awesome. So this is our panel. Hi, panel.
Hi.
All right. Sorry. This is why you should only print one-sided, but I don't know how to do that with the printer upstairs. So sorry. All right. So like we discussed, the purpose of dating is to find our spouse and to make sure that we really link ourselves with the right person for the rest of our life here. And like Pastor Andrew said, purposeless dating is just practicing for divorce. And so just practicing divorce. So some of what we're going to talk about tonight is just like what we can do to make dating go smoother. Kind of even, we can talk about some things that either haven't gone well or just what we do in our singleness to just set us up better for that dating season. Because here's the deal. We could say all we want, like, hey, you're young, like, don't date or whatever. But the matter of, like, you guys are going to do it. So why don't we actually equip you in how to do it and what the benefits are and different things like that and what we should know now and equip you versus just saying, no, don't touch that. So, or don't do that. Sorry. I meant don't do that, but then my mind went to a mom analogy of like, don't touch the hot stove, but in other words, also, don't touch that. That ain't yours. All right. Anyway. Yep, acts like that's weird,
so
and everyone's
weird.
like, at this point, Pastor Hayden, where are you at? Sorry, you guys got me tonight, and he thought I would do a better job. All right, so the first point, when it comes to dating, one of the things that we want to do is we want to focus on friendship. And so, is friendship in a relationship something that's important to you guys, and why or why not?
So yes, friendship in a relationship is very important. For those that don't know, this is my husband, and I'm sure most of you know, but we actually were friends for about 6 months before we even started dating. And so by developing that friendship, it's the basis for our relationship. It helped you become deeper friends, which buds into a deeper relationship. So without building that friendship, you're kind of like, okay, well, there's an attraction, but there's nothing to build. There's nothing, let's go to the movies, let's go play mini golf. You want a foundation, and friendship is that foundation.
Yeah, that's so good. Also, I'm going to reiterate, y'all, it's not easy to be up here. It's not easy to be up here. And so I'm going to ask that you guys would have respect and listen to the people who are sharing, and because you might learn a thing or two. And so anyway, like we're talking about friendship, focusing on friendship. For Pastor Hayden and I, those of you that don't know, Pastor Hayden and I like to call us like unofficial high school sweethearts because we didn't date in high school. We dated like after 1 or 2 years of college. But we knew each other. We were best friends in school, and we used to use that term like you shouldn't really always be best friends with the opposite gender because they don't need to know your heart in that way. But we were legit. I mean, we were best friends. We had a really healthy friendship that we didn't share like too much of our heart or whatever. Like we respected each other. Boys, do I need to split you? Yeah. Can you please, one of you move? Thank you. So we knew each other in high school, and I mean we were best friends. We went to prom together, had a great time. Like we knew each other though for years before we had started dating. And friendship it was a huge thing for us to just even like know each other and all that. So we'll keep going. So why is friendship before and during a relationship important?
Oh, I'll go there. So I think that friendship really like signals like compatibility, kind of like what Jody was saying, like you have like that foundation there. I think that when you're hanging around somebody, you'll start to get to know, you can pick up on things like, you'll pick up on, what's important to them. So their interests, and you might share those interests, and like, okay, like I know I can like hang out with you, we can like do things that we enjoy together. But you also pick up on things like people that are important to them, and like who are they always talking about? Who are they hanging around with? And then if you're not picking up on those things too, that can kind of signal something to you also, like maybe, it's all about them, or, why don't they talk about that person? Or maybe they talk about them in a negative way too. So that can kind of like clear up a lot of things before you even get into a relationship.
Yeah, that's so good.
And then I think another thing, other than getting to know them, is trusting them. And I think, see, for me, if I were to go and date someone, like you guys said, one of the main reasons to go date someone is to obviously marry them. So the way I look at it is like, how are you going to go and like date someone and not trust them and then expect them to have like a good marriage with them, So
That's so good, and kind of reiterating again Pastor Andrew's thing of purposeless dating. So if we date without purpose behind it and intention behind it, we're just practicing for divorce. So another question is, what does friendship reveal about a person?
Whether you want to be around them or not. It's kind of at the basic. But, a friendship reveals about a person the kind of traits, the interests, the commonalities, the ideals that you may be looking for in a partner that you want to grow old with, that you want to do life with. And it's at some point you all will begin to kind of gather that information, figure out your likes, your dislikes, and you'll kind of create a list of, this is what I want my husband, or this is what I want my wife. This is what I want to see in them. And of course, it's a list. It's not going to be perfect, but that's a whole nother conversation. But it's very, very important to realize that having a friendship can reveal those things. To say, you know what, I like that person, but they don't kind of meet everything. So let's be friends. Let's just hang out. But then there's those people that you just see those things, and you're like, I want to pursue that person. And having that friendship can actually reveal those things. And if you couple it with prayer and purpose, God will reveal those things that He knows about you that you want.
That's good. Zach, did you have something?
Yeah, I think that kind of has to do with the previous question about why is friendship before important? Because that's your chance to understand what you like in what in other people and what you don't like. And it gives you a chance before being in a relationship to see or predetermine if you think things are going to work out or not.
Yeah, because and this is even for you guys. You can answer this too, because how many of you guys maybe have seen somebody that maybe they're like an acquaintance or even they're a friend, and you're like, I kind of like you, but you jump into dating instead of where if you had just remained friends with them for maybe another couple weeks longer or even just another season longer, you probably would have realized oh yeah, we don't mesh very well, Has that happened to anybody where it's oh yeah, I shouldn't have dated that person, should have just waited a little bit? Yep, thank you for your honesty, guys. Because believe it or not, dating, and I get when you're young, and well, even when you're our age, there's hormones and things, and so it's easy to look at dating just as a pursuit of the physical stuff, because we live in a society. Oh my gosh, one of my old youth pastors used to say this: we live in a hot want now society. We see something that's hot, we want it, and we want it now. And there's that instant gratification. There's the not wanting to wait, and so believe it or not, dating is not just about the physical things, because if you're going to be, you're going to be married someday. That's the goal. That's the purpose of even dating, is to try and find that person. And so if you were in a relationship with your spouse and the intimacy wasn't there, would you still have a healthy relationship or not? Hopefully you would, because friendship would be the foundation. Without, obviously, yeah, that's important, but you should have that friendship. In 1 Timothy 5:1-2, it says, never speak harshly to an older man, but appeal to him respectfully as a father. Talk to younger men as you would your own brothers. Treat older women as you would your own mother, and younger women with all purity as you would your own sisters. Friendship's super important. It's important that we respect and honor each other. And so those of you with siblings, if you had some joker out here saying something, some type of way to your sibling that you're like, oh no. how much so you feel that protectiveness of them, but yet you either allow other people to speak to you in a way that's not honoring, or vice versa. You're the person not speaking to them honoring, you know? So we should be treating so guys, we should be treating girls as if they're our sisters, and guys, we should be treating, girls, we should be treating guys then as our brothers. So, did I say that right? I was about to mix it up. And something that I was told when I was younger and in dating seasons and stuff like that before marriage was a good rule of thumb to live by is kind of like this rule of seasons. And when it comes to getting to know somebody, and especially if you're like, hey, I do like you, and I see some potential because these parts of our lives, our personalities, like they line up, they complement each other. And it's a good thing to notice those things, guys. Like, it's a good thing that you have that awareness to say, like, I think we could benefit each other in that way. But what somebody told me is, like, have this rule of seasons where, spend the time, especially, and whether you start dating or whatever, but especially before, like, engagement and getting married, see that person in every season of their life. Like, so almost even like in a year, like see them, how they are in the spring, how they are in the summer, how they are in the winter, how they are in the fall, all that kind of stuff. It sounds silly, but it's like see them from every angle. See them with their friend groups. See what they're like, out in public on a date, like what they're like with their family, what they're like with their extended family, how they mesh with your family. See them in every season before kind of like jumping to another commitment level. So with that, the first one, obviously focus on friendships. So then the next thing that we need to do when you're pursuing a dating relationship or just even having these in place before dating would be to determine your boundaries. And so when you hear the word or the phrase boundaries, what do you guys think?
For me, I think of protecting and guarding my heart, which is really important to me. Also, when you have boundaries up, it's usually for you not to fall into temptation. It's for you not to go over that line of temptation, and really also being intentional with people and not just like, hey, you're my boyfriend, or boy's girlfriend, but actually being intentional and getting to know them and their heart, and not just for their attractiveness.
That's so good. And even, I'm going to real quick tag on to that. Proverbs 4:23 says to guard your heart above all else, because from it flows life, and all the things that you care about the deepest, you've got to guard your heart in that sense. And so like Chloe's saying, boundaries are important, y'all, like not only just in dating, because there's physical boundaries, there's emotional boundaries, but just even in relationships. Like as a 28, almost 29-year-old, I've always, for a long time in my life, been kind of the pushover and trying to, be a people pleaser. And when we're trying to please people, we're not trying to please the Lord. We can only please one person. And so as a recovering people person, like I'm literally, the Lord has been giving me so many opportunities to walk out healthy boundaries with people. And let me tell you, it's painful. It's not fun. But it helps when I have a boundary up, just even in relationships, not just dating, but even friendships and things. It helps me not to resent people because I didn't have the self-control or something to say no, or just stand up for myself. Does that make sense? Like, do y'all ever say yes to something that you then instantly regret, but you get mad at them for it when really it's kind of your own fault because you didn't say no? Okay. So, anyway, so boundaries are important whether you're dating or not, and there's physical and emotional boundaries that we'll talk about. So, Colin, did you want to add on to that question? Of when you hear boundaries, what do you think?
I mean, Chloe kind of really summed it up a lot, but it's in a relationship, I think right now we're more focusing on in a dating relationship, you have these common goals that you are wanting to reach. So you guys will set, let's set some boundaries. And they're rules and limits that keep you from getting to that place you don't want to go. It is setting up those walls to help fortify that foundation that you guys have that obviously should be set on Christ first through your personal relationship, but then also in your dating relationship, you don't want to cross those boundaries. So you set limits and rules saying, we're going to agree that, we're going to keep the door open. and we're going to leave room for Jesus. How about that? Leave room for Jesus. That's a good one. And it just helps to keep both of you honest, keep both of you on the same page. And it's just setting those boundaries, the things you don't want to cross. Both of you see as, nope, I'm not going to go there. Let's set these things up so that we don't get there.
That's so good. And again, guys, want to reiterate, we hear a lot of whispers up here, and so though we may seem far, we hear y'all. So please be respectful to those of us that are up here and sharing, because like Colin and Chloe just gave some seriously good wisdom that we all can use and take to heart. So if you guys feel comfortable, what are some of your boundaries, either in like past relationships, current relationships, non-dating or dating? Because even sometimes we need to have boundaries in place before we even get to dating. So even just boundaries in our friendships and different things like that. Do you guys have any that you'd want to share, or what those would be?
For me, it's about context and perception. So when Colin and I were dating, we would go out to the movies, we would go out on dates and do things. And for me, I don't mind holding hands, I don't mind hugging, but the perception that I am leaving for other people, I don't want to be out there and people like, oh yeah, they are definitely together and I don't want to see that right now. So it's the context and the perception, but you also have to realize that's not just for being out, but that's for being in too. What if somebody walks in on you? You one, don't want to be in a room by yourself, but it's about, so the context and perception of putting yourself out there. Because when you're dating, you don't want to hide it. You're happy to be with that person. You're happy to be around them. You want others to know that. But you don't want it to be so large and so booming that people are turned off from you.
Right. Like, you don't want to be the couple that people are like, blah. Something that someone told me one time, too, and because, it's great to think, like, what would Jesus do? Or how would you feel if Jesus was in the room? Well, the reality is like, that one sometimes doesn't hit home as well as it should. And so a really good one to go by is, how would you feel if Grandma was in the room? I don't care how lovey Grandma is. Grandma would probably feel pretty uncomfortable with some things. And so that's sometimes a good way to, like, in a funny way, to think, like, all right, Grandma, Grams, what would you feel comfortable with? Probably not much. So anyway, do you guys, either of you guys have anything?
Yeah, boundaries for dating and boundaries like with friends can be completely different and also similar at the same time. And I like the analogy you used with Grandma, but the one I did was like, would you be comfortable with Jesus literally sitting right next to you and still be comfortable with all the things you're doing? Yeah. So I definitely would say, talk to your bae and be like, hey, we got to set up some boundaries, So I think something that I kind of like to, I'm still 16. Keep that in mind, but I think a good one is, definitely setting a curfew. Maybe, your parents set one curfew, but for the two of you, set one specific curfew that are like, hey, after this, like, we have to tone it down, Another one is, like, don't go into places, a dark room with the TV on or something. Don't set yourself up into those kinds of situations. But with friends, it's different, and at the same time, same. But if you're hanging out with, like, a group of guys, obviously don't do anything dumb. But with girls, same thing. And, there's mixes and stuff. But if it's like one guy and one girl, you may think, oh, yeah, we're just friends. We're just hanging out. But I would say just keep in mind that maybe that other person has different intentions.
That's so good.
And, yeah.
That's so good. Someone always catches feelings. Somebody always does. I don't care how close you are. Y'all, I was best friends with Hayden, and there were seasons that I was like, oh, I love you. I love you. And we were friends, you guys. Like, straight friends. Friend zone so hard. Like, I was past the friend zone, and I was, like, in the sisters realm, and I was like, oh. But, hey, there's hope, We're married. Anyway, do you want to share some boundaries?
Sure. So, I definitely have them in mind, like, for dating, like, what you guys are talking about. Very, like, similar things, but kind of a weird one, like, that I have, I guess, is that, like, don't hit me. And I know that sounds weird because it's like, of course, like, don't hit me, but it's like, don't even, like, play around, like, don't hit me, don't act like you're gonna, like, punch me or anything. And I know that sounds weird because a lot of people play like that, but to me, it just means like so much more. And I would say in dating, absolutely, but also in like a friendship kind of way too. Like that's something that makes me uncomfortable. So don't do that with me. I've had friends that like have held me back, like they like got me like by the arms. And I mean they're my friends and they're still my friends. And they were just playing around, but they like held me back and they just like smacked me in the face. And it was one of the most humiliating like horrible feelings, and I hated it. And I like cried. And maybe I'm sensitive, but but it really made me uncomfortable. And so that's something that I'm just like, I don't even want to go there. Plus, like, if you're already like fake hitting or like even like really hitting, but like pretending, how much easier is it if there's like a little bit of emotion, like maybe some anger charge behind that, to actually do it for real? And so you can get into some bad situations like that. And so I would just rather just cut it off. And if a guy I was dating like tried to hit me, I would try to shut it down, and I would just hope that he would understand like what it means to me. I'm not just trying to like ruin fun or anything. It means so much more to me. So.
And it's so good to be like honest about those kinds of things. And can we say, even on the flip side, like, girls, it's not okay for us to hit dudes, because obviously there is that very heavy line, and I'm sure every guy in this room has been told that like you do not hit a woman. But like girls, we don't need to be laying hands on a guy either aggressively, because then that's such a double standard. And so and I know that's something like even Hayden and I have talked about, is just like, there's been times if he's said something and I kind of like smacked his arm of like, don't say that. And he's talked to me later and been like, can you please not do that? And he's like, because that bothers me. He's like, if I ever, like, even if it was just, kind of, I'm not going to do it because that's her boundary. So, Mark, no, I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
What? Hold on.
But, so it's like, even if it's not like whatever, he was like, I don't like that. Like, that's uncomfortable to me. Like, if that, because he was like, how would you feel if I hit you or if I did something? And I was like, it would not be good. And he was like, well, exactly. So, but that stuff's important. Like, especially if you have something, like, for me even like the term and the phrase woman, like, I do not like it one bit. Like, don't call me woman. Like, because to me, that, even in a joking manner, y'all, I'm dead serious. Like, that is so degrading to me, and I don't like it. And so anyway, when you have boundaries or things like that something like gets your blood boiling, and you're like, oh, it's silly. I know they mean it in fun, like, ha, woman, get your woman or whatever. Like, if someone tells you that, like, whether friend or boyfriend, girlfriend, or bae, like Mark would say, oh man, that rhymed. I'm gonna poet and didn't even know it. But make sure that you're respectful of those, because that also reveals like so much truth about your character and different things too. But feel comfortable to say those things and stand up for yourself. Like, if you don't feel comfortable, even if it's going to rub somebody wrong, that's a healthy boundary. So make that boundary. In Philippians 2:12, it says, dear friends, you always followed my instructions when I was with you, and now that I am away, it is even more important. Work hard to show the results of your salvation, obeying God with deep reverence and fear. So as we date people, we're accountable to how we treat them. And I've often heard the phrase, and I'm going to share it with you guys, that when we date somebody, we should leave, like, if that relationship were to end, we don't end up marrying them, we should leave that person better off than we found them. And at the end of the day, you guys, like, unless there are 2 rings on both of y'all's fingers, like, so not even just engagement, like, but if there's 2 rings on your fingers, then that's finally that moment when, like, you are each other's person, husband, wife, whatever. But ultimately, up until then, especially in dating and even in engagement, like, yes, there's more of a commitment within engagement, but until you are in that covenant relationship of a marriage, that guy is still someone else's husband, and that girl is someone else's wife. And so it's like we're accountable to God to how we treat other people, especially in our friendships, but our dating relationships, because that's somebody else's person. Until those rings are on both fingers, that's somebody else's husband and that's somebody else's wife. So with that, we have a couple more quick questions about boundaries, and then we'll move to accountability. So what about when you're in a relationship, what do you do if the person that you like or that you're dating, what if you guys don't see eye to eye in your boundaries?
I have two possible outcomes. I think obviously number one is obviously try and like resolve them, see if there's something you can do to fix it, and then the second one is if don't give up your principles and values. So like if there's nothing you can do and the other person's just like, no, I really want to do this, and you have that boundary, don't be like, oh, maybe this once, like fine, let's do it. So I'm gonna quote Uncle Mike here. He was talking to me about this one day, and he goes, don't put yourself into situations you know you can't handle. So set
good.
that boundary and like stand up for yourself and don't give in.
That's so good. Does anyone else have one?
Run away quickly and don't look back. Like, seriously, if the person that you're with can't respect your boundaries, they
Yeah.
don't deserve you.
Yeah, that's so good.
Seriously, they don't. If they cannot respect that you have set a boundary, nope,
Thank you.
you're
Next.
done with them.
Bye, boy, or
Hey,
bye,
there
girl.
you go.
That's good. So we're gonna kind of keep moving with that. Determining boundaries. Another thing that comes in place of like even upholding those boundaries would be to submit to accountability. And so in Hebrews 13:7, it says, remember your leaders who taught you the word of God. Think of all the food that has come from their lives and follow the example of their faith. So that's Hebrews 13:7. And then Hebrews 13:17 says, obey your spiritual leaders and do what they say. Their work is to watch over your souls, and they are accountable to God. Give them reason to do this with joy and not with sorrow. That would certainly not be for your benefit. And so, man, when it comes to accountabilities, accept your leaders' yes and trust their no. There's going to be times that when one in life, whether you're dating right now or not, you should have accountability in your life. And friend to friend and peer to peer accountability is awesome, but like, come use us leaders. Like, we give you full permission. Like, if you need somebody to help keep you accountable in life, come use us and talk to us and let us be the people that we can have that place and that voice in your life. But man, trust us. Like I just said, accept your leaders' yes and trust their no. I could talk on and on for that because I've had a lot of times that people have let us have spaces in their life, but then did not like what we had to say, and then we're like, okay, bye. And so, man, trust their no. So do you guys, for you guys, what is the purpose of accountability, and why should you have accountability in your relationship?
For me, the purpose for accountability is to keep, that person accountable, but also to correct their actions and advise them and help them. And if you don't follow that accountability, if you don't allow that accountability to really help you grow as a person and ultimately as a better partner for your future husband or wife, you're not going to learn and you're not going to grow, and you're really going to diminish your value that you're going to have to other people.
That's good. Then did you want to share on that one?
Sure. I think like the purpose of accountability, sometimes you can think like it's like to ruin your fun or like spoil your fun or like make you break up or something. It's like if you, especially coming to a leader, and it's like, well, if I do that automatically, they're going to tell me, oh, I shouldn't even be in this relationship. But that's really not what it's for. Jesus has a standard for our life, and you need those people that are watching your life and being intentional about that to sometimes call you out so that you're living that standard. And I mean, we're broken people. Everybody, we all have sin in our life, so like we're never going to fully like be able to keep ourselves to that standard. And even with accountability, like that's going to be really hard. So you have to be working for it too, and trying to achieve that standard. That's like the goal of our life, right? And to be honoring God in our actions. So we need that. We need other people looking at our lives and calling us out in order to do that.
Yeah, that's good. Jody, what about you? Do you have accountability in your life?
Yeah, and so going from dating to married, I mean, it looks the same, but this is the accountability when you're married. But it's also good to have another person next to you. Because, I mean, even in a dating relationship, sometimes there are things that come up, and you need another voice besides the person you're in a relationship with. But this should always be your first accountability. And then you can go to your secondhand person who you would go to. It's creating that deeper awareness with somebody else so that you're not walking alone.
Yeah, that's so good. Because oftentimes when we don't have accountability, what happens is we end up, when we're, or maybe we did have accountability set up, what ends up happening is if we either don't listen to what they have to say, or if we're like, you know what, I don't like what you got to say. It doesn't agree with what I want to do, and I think I'm right. So, and we walk away from that. We're walking away from accountability and somebody to help us stay strong, but then we're simultaneously walking into isolation by ourselves, and that's only going to hurt us. You know what I'm saying? So accountability is huge, and be careful who you find your accountability in is the biggest thing too, because it's like you could find your accountability in a peer, or then even in addition to your peers, because it's like if you got friends, they should hopefully be some level of accountability for you. But then after that, you'll get married someday and you'll have accountability with your spouse. But you guys, like whether you're single or dating, before those rings are on, please don't use your boyfriend or girlfriend as your accountability. Because one, if you guys struggle with the same things, you're not going to get nowhere. But then also, there's just like Chloe was saying earlier, man, guard your heart. There's some things that until you are married, you just do not need to be sharing with the opposite sex, no matter how close you are. There's just things you don't need to share. And so a part of guarding your heart is by keeping some things gender specific and telling them to either your friends or like the same gender leaders that you have. Because, like as much as we want to have somebody there to like be a shoulder to cry on, and it's also nice when it's a person of the opposite sex that you may be attracted to, it's like, it's not gonna help you out, and it just kind of muddies the waters. And so, man, if you can keep accountability with somebody, accept accountability into your life, make sure it's somebody that you can trust, and then from there, don't run from it, because it's only gonna end up hurting you in the long haul. And so we're gonna wrap up this section, and then I'm gonna quick wrap stuff up with you guys. So if you could give our panel a round of applause. Thank you guys. Thanks for being vulnerable and transparent with us. And to wrap some things up, for me, when it comes to boundaries too, you guys, if you're asking the question of how far is too far, that's kind of almost like standing on the edge of a cliff. If you're asking how far is too far, then you're literally like walking and teetering on the edge of a cliff, and every like wrong step, or say you get a rock that's under your foot, you're going to fall immediately. And so what you need to do when setting boundaries, especially physical ones too, guys, is if you see where how far is too far, when you know where that line is, then you need to reevaluate and bring that line back here, so that even when you do stumble or you do have an accident or whatever, you still didn't go too far. Does that make sense? And I'm here to tell you guys, like I said earlier, I grew up with a lot of this stuff, and I did dating right at times, but then I really didn't do dating very well at times. And a lot of it was because I didn't have healthy boundaries. I was insecure with myself. I was looking for to fill voids in my life in another person. And so for those of you maybe that have gone too far, or you have like fallen off the cliff, whatever, and you feel like, man, I've messed this dating thing up already, you're still not too far for God to reach you, if that makes sense. So I just want to encourage those of you that if you have messed up, if you've fallen short, which, hey, we all have, whether you're single or dating, we have all fallen short of the glory of God. And so I want to be here to tell you that there is grace, and we don't have to live in condemnation or in shame or guilt. And so I want to offer tonight, as I pray us out, I want you guys to if you need to, connect with one of us leaders, connect with one of your small group leaders. If you need to talk about something, confess something, if you need to set up an accountability partner with one of your leaders, like, let's do that tonight, just so that we can start from here on out with healthy standards and boundaries, and putting friendship first, and having accountability to be able to do this thing right. Because we're all going to date. It's going to happen. But, man, let's set ourselves up for success, to have the best experience possible, so that when we do stand up at an altar someday and we commit our lives to somebody else, that we can say, you know what, here is all of me. Whether it's been redeemed by God or it's still intact from that. Like, man, here's all of me. And there's no shame and guilt. Because can I just say, one of the worst things is to stand up on your wedding day at your altar, at the altar, and hear the enemy whisper all the shortcomings you've had and all the ways that you missed it. It sucks. And so, but I'm here to say that, man, God is good and he's faithful, and he can redeem the things that were either lost or taken or given away. He can redeem all of those things, and he can restore those things, and he is a good God, and he wants to see you win. And so I'm going to go ahead and pray you guys out, and then you'll be dismissed, and you can either talk with leaders or you can go have a good time out on the plaza. And so I'm going to real quick pray for everybody. Lord, we thank you for tonight, God. We thank you that we could have fun in here and just talk about dating and relationships and what it means to focus on friendship, how to determine some boundaries in our life, but then also how to set up and have successful accountability. Lord, I just ask that if we're needing guidance in any one of these areas tonight, Lord, that you would give us the boldness to pursue those things, to pursue fighting for friendship and pursuing friendship over dating, or that we could put some healthy boundaries in place, whether dating boundaries or just emotional, relational boundaries. And God, that we could set up accountability just to help keep us on the straight and narrow. So, God, we ask that you would give us the boldness to seek those things out. And, Lord, I just ask that you would continue to just be with each and every person in this room, Lord, whether dating's a struggle or not, whether friendships are a struggle or not, Lord, that I thank you that you never leave us or forsake us. Because sometimes we can sit in a big room like this and feel like we're the only person and that we're not seen. And so, Lord, I just thank you that you are with each and every one of us, that you, Lord, would fill each and every place of our heart, Lord. Whether our hearts are broken or intact, your hands are large enough to hold every piece of our heart. And so we ask, God, that you would just be there for us to continue to learn and grow in our relationship with you, and to continue to move forward, and that we would date well, Lord, that we would be a generation that can kind of return to some of our roots. And Lord, that we could continue to get to know you more. So God, we love you and we give you this night, and I give you all of these students in Jesus' name. Amen.